Hello and welcome to one more English lesson, right? So we got there, right? We have already end, yeah? Not end yet. This is not a good word to use, right? We have already finished, okay, the topics, the chapters of the book, okay? And from today on, we're gonna work out, we're gonna analyze, and we're gonna learn in a better way, okay? How to understand the questions, I mean, in this way, in these exam style questions, and how to answer them properly. Remember that the answers that we are gonna talk about here, it is not only like okay, yes or no, or correct or wrong. No, this is like writing essays. Do you know what is an essay? Do you understand about that? Yeah, it's a long text, right? That you make the description, that you explain to the reader or to the teacher. Yeah, what did you understand, and using like support answers for that, support sentences, yeah, that's gonna prove that your answer is right because you gave features of that, yeah, you gave information about that. And this is what we're gonna learn today. Okay, so what are you gonna do today? I'm gonna read an work exam style question sample, and I'm gonna read some of the answers for that, yeah, the analysis. And after that I'm gonna read two, I guess it's 2 pages, yeah, that you student, you're gonna have to answer, okay, of course using your own English. Okay, this is the beginning of our final stage here of this book. Okay, so of course let's take a look, let's check it out on the work exam style question, and let's analyze also the sample answer so we can get ready for the questions, yeah, itself. Okay, so follow me. I'm gonna share my screen with you right now. And as you can see, right, this is me here. I'm gonna put myself a little bit side here, right? Okay, and that's it. So worked exam style question. Again, as I told you before, this is a sample answer. Okay, this is a sample. Take a look at this sample answer. It is all about how to analyze the usefulness of two sources. Usefulness, the utility of that. Okay, so let's analyze the source here. I go down, yeah, and I can see here in the page source A and source B. I mean, so these are the two sources. These are the two things that we have to analyze. So let's read it. Source A, there is this picture here, and there is a sentence that says, "This is my last territorial demand in Europe." And there is a picture, there is the picture of Hitler here. And then there is a question just down below, right? Let me make some notes here on about what I'm reading. Okay, so the sentence is here. Sorry, let me get a color here. Okay, so the sentence is here and the question is here, and then down below we have this sentence. An American cartoon published after the Munich conference in September 1938. The man walking across the beach is Hitler. The title of the cartoon is "For How Long?" So, for how long? The question that we have seen is the title. Okay, so this is the first source, and this is what we're gonna analyze. And when we have a picture, of course, we have to consider the picture as well, not only what is written on that, but also the picture and the sentence. Okay, and then source B, as we can see here, there is only a reading, there is only a text. Okay, so there is no picture to analyze. So in this one, of course, we're gonna analyze only the text. So just follow me. Source B. In future, the Czechoslovak state cannot be maintained as an independent entity. You will find that in a period of time which may be measured by years, but may be measured only by months, Czechoslovakia will be engulfed in the Nazi regime. It is the most grievous consequence which we have yet experienced of what we have done and of what we have left undone in the last 5 years. 5 years of futile good intention, 5 years of eager search for the line of least resistance, 5 years of uninterrupted retreat, of a British power, 5 years of neglect of our air defenses. We have been reduced in 5 years from a position safe and unchallenged to where we stand now. Separate nations, pointless. And then this, we have the biography, we have the description of this sentence that we have just read down below here. This is an extract from a speech by Winston Churchill to the House of Commons on the 5th October 1938. Throughout the 1930s, Churchill had warned, Churchill, right? Churchill, not Churchill, had warned against the threat posed by the Nazis and called for British rearmament. Okay, rearmament. So this is the thing that we have here. All right. So please check it out. Then analyze this. Now I'm gonna give you some word descriptions, right? And their definitions, of course. I'm gonna change the color. I'm gonna use pink for that. Okay. So future, the Czechoslovak state cannot be maintained as independent entity. So do you know what is an entity? Do you understand that word? Yes or no? Let me know. So I'm gonna give you now the definition of entity, just to make it easier. I'm gonna read here a simple definition for you, okay? But of course, try as much as possible to not translate the word. Of course, you can translate, in order to get it faster, but try to not translate the word, to understand, but just think in the definition of the word in English as well. So entity is a separate unit that is complete and has its own character. Again, an entity is a separate unit that is complete and has its own character. Example, I'm going to read for you. The two countries fought for the right to become separate entities. This is an example, okay? Pronunciation. Entity. Entity. All right. So let's get back here. And you will find it in period of time by measure, by years, by measure, by months. Czechoslovak will be okay. We have the next one here. Okay. So this is the word. Do you understand that word? So this is engulfed. Okay. The pronunciation, the basic pronunciation is this. Engulf. Engulf. Of course, it's ed. It's in the past, right? So of course it's engulf. So I'm gonna read the definition for you. So follow me. What is that? Engulfed. So when something is engulfed, it is, the action that you did is it's to cover or surround something in a way that harms or destroys it. Again, is to cover or surround something in a way that harms or destroys it. Example, several workers, many workers died in the landslide. Yeah, when landslide, when there is maybe a strong storm and rains a lot, and then the mountain, the edge of the mountain start separating, and then falling down. So this is a landslide that engulfed the old factory. So engulfed is be around, surround that, cover that. All right. So that is the next one, and let's get back here. And in the Nazi regime, the most this is another word. Yeah, this is another very good word. Listen to that. Listen to the pronunciation, which is this one here. Okay, pronunciation. 1, 2, 3. Grievous. 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 Do you know grievous? No idea? I'm gonna read for you, okay? So every time that something is grievous, every time that you see that something is grievous, is something extremely serious. I'm gonna read for you. If something is grievous, it's extremely serious or severe. Example, a grievous injury. He has made a grievous error. It's something really, severe. It's something strong. It's extremely, it's big. For example, it's a grievous error. It's a big error. It's a big mistake, right? And going down here again, let's get back here. We have the word, this one too, yeah. And So let me underline that. Yeah, do you know this word? If you don't know, listen to the pronunciation. So the pronunciation is
futile.
Futile. Futile, okay? Futile, yeah, it's similar to the Portuguese word. It's something useless, something unsuccessful, yeah. Example, it is futile trying to persuade him to change his mind. Yeah, it is useless. It will not work, right? So these are some of the words that we have here. Of course, we have more words, okay, but for now, that's it. This is what I'm gonna give you, okay? So, of course, what you do, you analyze that, deeper, yeah, in a more profound way, okay? And then let's go on. So let's see the questions that we have down below here. So this here is the question. Look at source A and B. How useful would these sources be to a historian studying the policy of appeasement? And use both sources and your own knowledge to explain your answer. Again, so this is as you can see, yeah, in all the question, in all these exam styles that we have done before, the questions are quite similar, right? So how useful, how important, yeah, these sources A and B would be to a historian. Historian is a person who studies, yeah, that kind of topic, okay? The policy of appeasement, yeah, this appeasement thing, yeah. So it's going to be very useful, not useful, it's going to help, it's not going to help, okay? So use both sources and your own knowledge, your own information. What do you have? Google, like the things that you know apart from the book, and explain your answer. So I'm going to read here for you the answer, and I'm going to read the notes because we have some notes and explaining why they use it that notes. Okay, so again, this is a sample answer. Okay, so in this page here, you don't have to do anything, just to read, just to follow me. So follow. Source A is a useful. Source A is useful for studying the policy of appeasement because it shows that some people doubted whether the policy could work. So you see, we have here the direct answer. Source A is useful for studying the policy of appeasement because. So how useful it is? It is useful. You said, okay, it is useful because is the word that we use to explain, right? Everybody knows that, right? Okay, and then we have a note about that here. It is important that all of your points are directly relevant to the question. When I say all your points, I mean that everything that you're gonna say when we are gonna start your answer, it is very important that the reader catches right away. As soon as he starts reading, okay, I know what is he talking about. Okay, do not complicate too much your answer. Don't go like, teacher, I think that maybe perhaps, I don't know exactly. No, be directly, okay? So I think it's useful, or I don't think it's useful. This is a direct question, or yes or no. Don't go like perhaps, it depends. No, a very good answer, you begin yes or no. Even if your answer is wrong, it doesn't matter. Okay, maybe you have studied not so much, you don't know exactly what happened in the history, okay? In the story actually that we are reading, okay? But give something direct, okay? At least if you make a mistake, you gave a very good writing, okay? This is important. So that's why it's be direct, be direct, and make sure that your answer is relevant to the answer. It is connected to the same. If they ask you if the color was good, your answer must be if the color was good. Don't change the topic. Okay, so get back and moving on. So the text in the cartoon refers to Hitler's promise to Chamberlain on 15th September 1938 that the invasion of the Sudetenland would be his last territorial demand in Europe. The title of cartoon for how long, and then we have the title of the cartoon for how long, and the fact that the promise is written on a beach where it can easily be washed away by the tide suggests that Hitler is unlikely to keep. So listen, this is a very interesting answer. Very interesting. Take a look on that. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna make my head disappear just for you to read. Okay, so if you're writing about a visual source, make sure you explain what it shows. Okay, so he made a comment about here, right? There is something written in the sand, yeah, on the sand actually, right? It's we can see over the sand. So he made a comparison. The fact that the promise is written on a beach where it can easily be washed away by the tide, by the water, right? Okay, suggests that Hitler is unlikely to keep his promise in the long term. Okay, so he made the comparison, yeah? It is on the sand, so if the water, if the tide goes over, it's gonna disappear. So it shows that Hitler, he doesn't want to keep because he wrote that. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. I don't know about you, but I found it very, how can I say? I found it very interesting. Very, I mean, yeah, that's the word. Very interesting. Okay, very nice. So let's continue. Let's move on to the next part. So continue the reading. The cartoon was published in the USA after the Munich Conference, at which Germany was allowed to have the Sudetenland in return for a promise from Hitler not to invade the rest of Czechoslovakia. Therefore, the source is useful because it shows that some, and now we're gonna go to the next page. Okay, some people in the USA had doubts about whether the Munich Agreement would stop Hitler from making more territorial demands in the future. So, you see, we have again more descriptions here, and then we go on. Like source A and source B expresses doubts about whether Hitler will keep the Munich Agreement. Check it out, this sentence here that I've just read for you. Oh, sorry, let me get the thing here. This one. Wait a minute. Okay, so this one here. And then the comment about that is you need to comment on both sources to get high marks. Okay, of course, even though they asked about, they have asked about both. Okay, so you can divide your answer in three parts. You make a comment about A, about B, and then make comments about both together. If you do that, it's a perfect answer, right? Moving on. Churchill says he expects the rest of Czechoslovakia to be engulfed in the Nazi regime in the future. This is useful because it shows that despite Chamberlain's claim that the Munich Agreement represented peace for our time, people in both Britain and America had very similar doubts about whether the agreement could succeed. And then we have this comment here that is underlined, right? So think about similarities and differences between the sources. Of course, this, when we are making comparison, when we are analyzing two, we make a description about one, we make a description about another one, we compare both, yeah? So this is what we call comparison, and this is part of any analysis that you have to make. Compare A and B, compare the situation, yeah? Okay, compare the things that were happening there, all right? And moving on. Source B is also useful for studying the policy of appeasement because it claims that the policy had caused an uninterrupted retreat of British power since 1933, which meant that Britain was no longer safe and let's go again. It claims that the policy had caused an uninterrupted retreat of British power since 1933, which meant that Britain was no longer safe. So this information here, we have a comment. Your answer should include the relevant details from the source. I don't have much to comment about that. If you are comparing, if you are making a description, put important information from the text and from sources that you are sure that they are real, okay? From the book, it's easier because we know the book, we have read the book, and we know this is at least it's supposed to be a factual information. It's to be a true information. But besides that, we always have Google, right? So check something and make sure it's real, and then you add that in your description. Moving on. no longer safe, and unchallenged. Okay, unchallenged. And ever since Hitler took control of Germany in 1933, and ever since, this is a very good word, very, very good. So this is a homework for you guys. What is that ever since? When we use that, okay? Make a description for me. When we use and why we use that. All right? So ever since Hitler took control of Germany in 1933, he had been taking aggressive actions, such as, example here, such as, for example, yeah, it's very similar, this word, such as, for example, like, yeah, similar words, the remilitarization of the Rhineland in March 1936, and the Anschluss with Austria in 1938. This is interesting too. Again, what is the note that we have here? Use your own knowledge to back up your points. I mean, your own knowledge means the research that you made by yourself, information not from the book. Source B. It is useful because it shows that at least one British politician recognized that the policy of appeasement had done nothing to limit Hitler's escalating aggression and believed that this posed a threat to Britain. Again, very useful information going down here below. And however, yeah, from this one, just don't get lost, right? However, the usefulness of Source B is limited because Churchill had warned against the threat posed by Nazi Germany and called for British rearmament, which suggests that he was critical of appeasement. This means that his speech gives a one-sided view of the policy, and his negative opinion may not have been widely shared in Britain. Interesting information, right? So you could comment on how the author's background affects the usefulness of the source. So what he meant here is that this comment, yeah, the comment of the author, yeah, only showed one side of the story, yeah, because if we continue studying, googling, yeah, like checking information, we're gonna see that Churchill, yeah, which was I believe it was the prime minister of the time, yeah, okay, he made that speech, but also he had more opinion about the situation, like there were more info, and we cannot see that info only in that source that we have read. That's why, yeah, he says he used this thing here. You could comment on how the author's background affects the usefulness of the source. I mean, because it's only half of the information, so each can affect for a good or for bad, because if you give only half of information, it's missing. Moving on. For example, Chamberlain was given a hero's welcome when he returned to Britain from the Munich conference, suggesting that few people shared Churchill's doubts about the Munich agreement. And even in early 1939, an opinion poll, poll, which means like a referendum, when you ask people, suggested that almost half the British population supported appeasement. They wanted peace, right? Everybody wants peace, I guess. And then, on balance, source A is less useful than source B for studying the policy of appeasement. You see, on balance, very good word. I mean, to not say that only source B, it's not really good. Also, A, we have some problems on the source A. So in your conclusion, you could write about which source is more useful. Okay, so this is what we have here. He put a balance on that. He got to a conclusion. And why source A is also has a problem and is less useful, which means that source B, maybe it's more useful than source A. Let's see. Because appeasement was a British policy, but source A is an American cartoon. Since the USA was not directly involved with the policy, source A can only offer an outsider's view of it. Interesting. In contrast, source B comes from a British politician who is likely to have had a more detailed knowledge of the policy. This is reflected in the fact that source B provides a more detailed picture of appeasement not only considering its chances of success, but also its impact on Britain between 1933 and 1938. That's it. So, did you get it? Did you understand that? This is this first analysis of the thing. So let's get back to me. Okay, so this is like an answer. Yeah, this is a sample answer for the questions that we have already read. And I mean, what I did here was I read the sample answer. I made the comments, the informations that were aside, just explaining why they say that, why they said that. So I'm gonna summarize it very quickly for you. Okay, so let's go. And when we're gonna answer that kind of stuff, like when we're gonna analyze, that kind of topic, especially related to history, it is very important that we read carefully what is in the book, for sure, and also we do some research to get more information, extra information about that. It is, as we could see here, the person who wrote, example, like in Source B, we had a speech, and it was from Winston Churchill, right, the Prime Minister. So if you can, it's very important to know like when he did it and why he did that, what was his intention, and if there were more information, like about the same event. So because as we could see, there is a lot of ways to analyze the thing, so, and when you're gonna answer that, when you're gonna compare, for example, or say how useful something was, so as you could see, we have two sources to analyze. So the first thing you do is you give your opinion. So if the question, if they are useful or not, so you begin saying, I think they are useful. No, for me, they are not useful. Go directly. That's the point. After giving that kind of answer, so we begin, like scrolling down, right? We begin like to giving, we will start giving the information, explaining why we think it's useful, why we think not. So that's the point. So in my opinion, is this is useful because of this, because of that, and then we go on. So what it is, okay, what is important to be in this middle of this explanation after you give your opinion, or your, how can I say, your point of view of the thing. Okay, so you're gonna give details of source A, we're gonna give details of source B, you're gonna compare both sources, just give some points of each one. If you have the author, like as we had here, we knew the person who did the speech on source B, so make some comments about that, about the time and why he did that, right? And again, if you have the picture, right, as we had there, okay, analyze the picture. You see there was a very interesting detail. Hitler left some sentence on the sand, and the author here, he made this comment, right? He left that, he, how can I say that? He used the information on the sand to show that Hitler's, speech or statement wasn't something that people should believe, because it could be easily, washed up, clean it up by the tide, by the water. Tide is like wave, wave of water, right? So he, that's why it's so interesting, cartoons, like they, not only what is written on that, but also the picture says something. It says something for us. It shows us, it has a meaning behind it, and everything between the what is written and the picture. So if possible, analyze it very carefully, think about that, like brainstorm that, and then you build up your answer. And of course, after comparing, one and another, and then both, and giving details, giving, if possible, and this is good also, my recommendation, it's not only if possible, but I always do that, give your own information, something that is not in the book, and then in the end you give your conclusion. Not your conclusion like, oh, my opinion, because you have already given your opinion in the beginning, but conclude like, okay, so to finish, in conclusion, I reaffirm that this is very important, because you give some final statement, some final, strong information that you have. And that's it. This is the structure on how it works. So that's the point. Okay, so now I'm gonna read on one more sample, and then after that I'm gonna read for you guys the questions. Okay, so just follow me. here, as you can see, right? We have again, let me get here. We have a question and we have an answer. Wait a minute. This time I'm not gonna read the comments. Okay, I'm just gonna read the question and the answer, and I'm gonna ask you, student, in your book, analyze, okay, the how can I say, the information given and why he answered it part, analyze by yourself and use it to help you for the next one. Okay, so let's go. The sample answer below will help you to tackle the 16-mark essay question in the exam. So which means that the essay, it is worth a 16 mark. 16 mark is like 16 points. Okay, so you get a lot of points if you make a very good essay. So let's go on. The point, the source that we're gonna analyze is this one here. Britain's policy of appeasement was the main reason for the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939. So the Britain's policy of appeasement, of peace, it was the main reason. It was the, yeah, it was, I mean, there is no other word to use besides that. It was the main reason. That was the reason for the outbreak, for the beginning of the Second World War in 1939. So explain how far you agree with this statement. How far means do you agree or no, and how much? Oh, I agree 30%, 40%, 100%. So this is how far. And we have a little comment here. For questions like this in the exam, 4 extra marks will be available for spelling, punctuation, grammar, and using specialist terms. This is obvious, right? Be careful if you're writing with punctuation, when to use comma and everything, especially grammar. So I'm gonna read you student who are looking, you're gonna analyze this info. I just gonna read. I will not explain. Okay, so you do that as a homework. Explain how far you agree with this statement. Britain's policy of appeasement was an important reason for the outbreak of the Second World War. However, the war was caused by a combination of factors, including the weaknesses of the League of Nations and the rise of Hitler, which can be traced back to longer-term factors. Therefore, on its own, appeasement cannot be seen as the main reason for the outbreak. Again, on its own, appeasement cannot be seen as the main reason for the outbreak of the war. Britain's policy of appeasement contributed to the outbreak of war because it meant that Britain failed to react to increasingly serious acts of aggression. We have here like 2 informations, as we can see. So the first one is this one here. The war was caused by a combination. It's like this give a basic answer to the questions in the introduction, and in the other side, Britain's policy of appeasement contributed to the. This directly addresses the factor given in the question, right? So again, analyzing, understanding why he used that. It's your job. Again, continuing. Britain's policy of appeasement contributed to the outbreak of war because it meant that Britain failed to react to increasingly serious acts of aggression by Germany that broke the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Between 1933 and March 1939, the British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain adopted a policy of appeasement, attempting to negotiate with Hitler rather than threatening to use force against him. This meant that in March 1936, the comment about that is include specific dates to show you have a good knowledge of the period. Coming back to the reading, Hitler was allowed to send troops into the Rhineland, which had been demilitarized under the Treaty of Versailles, and 2 years later, in March 1938, there was no reaction when he took, just going back down a little here, I am in this part, when he took control of Austria. In May 1938, Hitler threatened to invade Czechoslovakia in order to take control of the ceded land. Britain also gave in to this demand, granting Germany the region in the Munich Agreement of September 1938. Britain's failure to punish Germany for these actions gave Hitler the confidence to invade Poland in 1939. triggering the Second World War. Therefore, this policy of appeasement contributed to the outbreak of the Second World War because it allowed Hitler's military aggression to escalate to the point where it could only be tackled by going to war. This information here, we have this comment, explain how each factor contributed to the outbreak of war. So every fact, like the policy of appeasement, he gave it as an example and explained why it contributed to the war. And moving on. Another important reason for the outbreak of the Second World War was the weakness of the League of Nations. And again, we have the comment about that here. Let me go up a little. Even if you agree with the statement, it is important to look at other factors to show you have considered alternative arguments. Because it means that you made some research. You didn't only, okay, I'm gonna follow the question and that's it. No, it shows that you have, you really understand about the topic. So again, I'm gonna read again. Another important reason for the outbreak of the Second World War was the weaknesses of the League of Nations. The League had been set up in 1920 to maintain peace, but it was often weak and ineffective. This was partly because of its complex structure and the refusal of the USA to join, but it was also a consequence of the Great Depression in the early 1930s. The League was founded on the idea that countries should take collective action based on common interests. But the Depression caused countries like Britain and France to turn away from this sort of internationalism and instead focus on dealing with their own economic difficulties, such as unemployment. And as a result, by 1936, the League was falling apart, having been badly damaged by its failure to tackle the Manchurian and Abyssinian crisis. The weaknesses of the League made it more. Now I'm gonna move on to the next part. Give me just a second. Again, it made it more difficult to organize an effective international response to Germany's escalating acts of aggression and also contributed to Britain's decision to follow the policy. The comment that we have about that, try to make links between different factors of appeasement. Try to make links between different factors. This is the comment that we have, right? So let me just make a circle here, as you can see, right? Okay, so continue. Follow the policy of appeasement. Because the British were reluctant to confront Germany without strong international support. They wanted help, right? Although Britain and the League of Nations failed to prevent Germany aggression, Hitler's policies themselves were an important cause of the outbreak of war. So this comment here, we can see that we have started a new paragraph every time you introduce a new point. Of course, right? This is very similar to the Portuguese version of doing this. This is because they raised tensions in Europe and made conflict increasingly likely. Very likely to happen. There was a high percentage of chance that something happened. This is likely. Hitler's desires to unite all German-speaking peoples into a German Reich led to the Anschluss with Austria, his bid for control of the Sudetenland. So let's go on here. Let's make a comment of this word. This one here. Check it out with me. Okay, so this word bid, for example, when we read the definition for that, I'm gonna read for you. When you bid, his bid for control, is like I believe this one here is used as a verb, so it's to offer a particular amount of money for something, for example, at an auction, or to offer to do work or provide a service for a particular amount of money. For example, several contractors bid for the job. Example. So, but what I can explain here, when we say that, let's read again here this sentence. So to explain that, Hitler's desire to unite all German-speaking peoples into a German Reich led to the Anschluss with Austria. His bid for control, as I said here, his offer, right? He offered, yeah, he offered himself to control, yeah, for control of the Sudetenland. I mean, he offered like, okay, I give you something and you let me control that. This is the meaning of the word beat. All right, so that's it. And the invasion of Poland, which was the immediate cause of the outbreak of war in September 1939. Similarly, his desire to provide more Lebensraum for the German people meant that he wanted to take territory east of Germany, contributing to his decision to invade Poland. Hitler was also committed to rearming Germany, as he demonstrated in March 1935 when he brought in military conscription, breaking the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Then up to here right now, right? So I'm gonna go up a little so we can conclude this reading. And this combination of desire to take land from other countries and a commitment to rearmament suggests that Hitler may always have intended to go to war in order to achieve his aims. And therefore, it is unlikely that that the international community could have stopped Hitler without using force, which shows that, again, his policies were a particularly important cause of the outbreak of the Second World War. And while Hitler's policies made war likely, made that the chances of having a war, high, Germany would not have been such a serious threat to international peace if Hitler hadn't come to power in the first place. So, of course, again, this highlighted sentence here, try to link back to the question at the end of every paragraph. To connect every answer, every sentence that you are saying to the question that you are answering. Okay? Of course, guys, yeah, like this is a lot of reading, so use it to practice your English, improve your pronunciation, and understand. Okay? This is the reason for following this big one here. Continuing here from therefore. So, therefore, the long-term factors which allowed Hitler to gain popularity were important causes of the outbreak of war. In particular, the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, such as vast reparations, the loss of territory such as Alsace-Lorraine, and the war guilty clause, were deeply resented in Germany. Further feelings of resentment were stirred up from 1929 because the Great Depression hit Germany particularly hard. Yeah, remember the Great Depression, the economical crisis, right? Causing banks to fail, exports to suffer, and over 6 million people to be out of work by 1932. Again, this information is also highlighted, right? I'm gonna as you can see here, use specific details from your own knowledge to back up your points, to back up your opinion, right? And let me get a little bit closer here. So, oh yeah, okay. So again, I'm gonna continue, right, from these feelings, but I'm gonna make my head disappear again, so to understand better. Let's go. These feelings of anger and resentment caused by the Versailles Settlement and the Great Depression contributed to the outbreak of the Second World War, because Hitler was able to exploit them in order to win support and take control of Germany. Overall, again, summarize your argument in your conclusion. Summarize means conclude, yeah, is when you are beginning your conclusion. So, overall, in conclusion, these are some words that we can use here, okay? To conclude, so we can use a lot of words, but overall is one option, okay? Overall is a word that we can use to show that we are concluding our thinking, yeah, our thought actually. Overall, appeasement was not the main reason for the outbreak of the Second World War. The war was caused by a combination of Hitler's aggressive policies, which drove Europe closer to conflict, and the British policy of appeasement, which failed to limit Hitler's aggression. However, both Hitler's rise to power and British appeasement can be traced back to longer-term factors. Can be traced back which means can be considered, right, as guilty, right? Such as the weaknesses of the League of Nations. Examples, right? The Versailles Settlement and the Great Depressions, yeah? Such as, again, he used it like, for example. That's why the British appeasement can be traced back to longer term factors. You know, like many things happened before if we analyze, yeah? That's why we have here. Make sure you clearly state, you clearly show, you clearly write, yeah, in your opinion in the conclusion, and try to link different factors. Try to give more proof and proof and proof of your answer, right? So that is the end of this part, right? So this is an essay and some descriptions, yeah. Why this is a very, this is a very good example of an essay, and this is what we are gonna try to do. We're gonna give like details, you're gonna write a lot, this is what we're gonna practice. Okay, so I hope you are understanding what I did up to now. Okay, so I'm gonna read the next page, yeah, which is some question, yeah, and this is gonna be the homework that we are gonna analyze, and I'm gonna ask you to answer. Okay, we're gonna have two sources, and you guys have to look at that, answer that, and send me. Okay, on your go on your notebook, write the answers for them, and that's it. Okay, I'm gonna give you only one today. Okay, only one page for us at the page number 60. So just follow me. Let's get there. Okay, so here we have the homework. Let me get back here. Hello, I'm back. So an exam style question, source A and B here, right? And let's go. Have a go. Sorry, let me get the color here. And have a go at these exam style questions to test your knowledge of how events in the 930s led to war. Source A. Again, we have the picture, we have the sentence. A British cartoon about the Munich conference. The cartoon is British, and published in 1938, 1 year before the official beginning of the war. The four seated men are, from left to right, the leaders of Germany, Britain, France, and Italy. The man in the doorway is the leader of the USSR. He is saying, "What? No chair for me?" Yeah, Stalin, right? We know this guy here, Stalin, the communist itself, right? And we have the four here. So, and then, what? No chair for me? So this is the first one. This is the first thing to analyze. So pay attention on that. Let me see. Yeah, pay attention on this picture here. Okay, check it out. Every detail. The characters, what do we have in the wall? The guy looking, yeah, like touching his mustache. There is a globe in the middle. The sentence, what? No chair for me. Remember that we have to analyze every detail, right? And source B, the reading. So, an extract from a speech by Sir Austen Chamberlain to the House of Commons on 26th March 1936. As a foreign secretary, Austen Chamberlain negotiated two Locarno treaties. We can see that on page 28. He was one of the few MPs who supported Winston Churchill's calls for Britain to rearm in the 1930s. In this speech, he is criticizing Britain's lack of response to the remilitarization. Oh God, that's a difficult word. So let's practice with me, guys. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Remilitarization. That's the thing. Of the Rhineland, and warning about the dangers of Nazi Germany. Okay, so, and then we have here the sentence. We cannot base European civilization on a system in which treaties bind the parties only so long as it suits their convenience. We can only found a European peace on confidence, and as long as treaties continue to be broken with impunity, time, and again by the same power, how can we have confidence in future in any new treaty that may be made? If we don't follow what was supposed to be followed in the treaty, so how can we trust in the future? This is And then we have this little thing, impunity. Yeah, when we have this little point here, we have the definition. Impunity means without being punished. Yeah, I mean, someone doesn't follow what it was, yeah, agreed before, and nothing happens to the person. So why? So this is the first part here. So these are the source, right? Source A and B, right? Let me get back to you here very quickly. Okay, so and now we're gonna move to the next page, okay, 61, because we have the questions there, right? But as I told you before, in page 61 we have more two sources, source C and source B, but we are not gonna analyze them today, even though we are gonna answer, okay, the sources A and B. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna read the questions, and then you are going to answer the questions, but only using source A and B. C and D, we analyze that in the next class, and also we answer that again in the next class. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the next page and I'm gonna read the questions for you. Okay, so let's get back there. Okay, as you can see, we have source C and D here. Oh, sorry, C, my bad, yeah. There is no D, but only source C. But we are not going to read that, okay? We're going to read that later. And then let's go directly to the questions, okay? So, exam style questions. Question number 1. Sorry, give me just a second. I always forget to change the color. So, question number 1. How can you tell that source A is a critical of the Munich conference? Use source A and your own knowledge to explain your answer. Yeah, so you analyze source A and then answer this one. Again, how can you tell that source A is critical of the Munich conference? Essa daqui eu vou traduzir só para facilitar, né? Como você consegue ver, né? Como você consegue entender que a source A, que a A, ela está criticando, né? Ela está criticando a conferência de Munique. So, answer that. Of course, use source A as an example. 2. Look at source B and source C. Of course, we are not going to look at source C, okay? Only source B. How useful would this source be to a historian studying concerns about, be careful, studying concerns, yeah, studying the topics, yeah, about the remilitarization of the Rhineland. Use both sources and your own knowledge to explain your answer. Of course, as we are not going to use C, you don't have to compare. So you only write about source B, all right? And number 3, give an account of how the German invasion of Czechoslovakia in March 1939 led to an international crisis in 1939. Again, give an account of how the German invasion of Czechoslovakia in March 1939 led to an international crisis in 1939. So this one, I guess it's possible to answer, right? Let me just check it out here. British cartoon publisher 1936, the standing figure in the first 2 stepping to no, yeah, it's possible to answer. So number 3 too. Of course, if you need, you Google that, go after that, but do that for me. And number 4, the European borders set out in the treaties at the end of the First World War were the main reason why international tensions increased in 1930s. Explain how far you agree with this statement. Again, teacher, what statement? This statement. The European borders set out in the treaties at the end of the First World War were the main reason why international tensions increased in the 1930s. Set out in the treaties. Set out. Do you understand that sentence? If you don't, again, let me know. What is the meaning of set out here? Right? Do you get it? Okay, so little explanation for you. Okay, when we say that, again, coming back here, the European borders set out in the treaties, that they were limited, they were displayed, organized, they put a limitation. Okay, so from now on, that's gonna be here, that's gonna be here, and that's it. Yeah, but of course, some people didn't respect that, right? So the European borders set out in the treaties at the end of the First World War were the main reason why international tensions increased in the 1930s, because they had set out that they had, they had put a limit on that, and yes, some of the nations, I mean, one nation specifically, right, Germany, they didn't respect that, and then they crossed and then began, yeah. Um, for example, like example that we can translate that, let me see here, tipo delimitar, yeah, quando Setel então, foi delimitado, foi, né, foi, mostraram, ele falou, não, aqui, esse foi um dos pontos, né, desse tratado, desse treaty, né, no final aí da Segunda Guerra, né, colocou as bordas ali, né, cara, como é que a gente fala? As fronteiras, né? Esqueci como é que fala border. Muito bem. As fronteiras ali da Europa, né, foram delimitadas, foram, né, traçadas ali e alguém não respeitou. E essa foi uma das principais razões aí das tensões internacionais, né? O porquê das tensões aumentaram aí no final, né? No meio, né? Nos anos 30, tá bom? Essa é a frase. E daí, explain how far you agree with the statement. And of course, so this one is also possible to answer, okay? So that's it for today, guys, okay? The class today was long, right? It was very long. Okay, so again, you don't have to analyze the C, okay, the C source, because we're gonna work that together next time. Okay, so just answer 1, 2, 3, 4 using A and B, okay? And of course, in the question 2, we have the C, but don't consider C, just consider B, okay? So guys, today was a very long lesson, right? Very deep lesson as well. So, I mean, thanks always, yeah, for your time, for paying attention here, right? And try to do your best. That's gonna be like a big answer that your guys are gonna have to do, but do your best. Again, if you have questions, send me a message. Yeah, you have my contact. I can help you in this activity here. Okay, so thanks as always, and of course I see you next time in our next class in the same time, hopefully. Yeah, so stay with God and see you next time. Bye bye, guys. Take care.